What's up guys, it's the Sound Alchemist, and I'm back at it again, bringing you 40 facts on the Warhammer 40k universe. This time we are doing yet another subscriber request. This time it comes from Richard from our Facebook page. Now Richard has just started playing 40k, and he just started with the Crimson Fists. So he wants to have a little bit more lore on the army that he's playing. And I'm like, that's one of the major things about this hobby. For me personally, if I'm not invested in my own army's lore, I'm going to get bored of them and I'm going to sell them. Basically, that's what happened with my Blood Angels, so I know exactly how that goes. So, without further ado, here's some lore on your chapter master, Pedro Cantor. So that being said, Pedro Cantor is the 29th and current chapter master of the Crimson Fist Space Marines, having served as its master for almost a standard century. In the 989th year of the 41st millennium, an orc warlord known as Snagrod, the arch-arsonist of Carcharodon, began a massive orc war, taking on several imperial colonies of the Loki sector with minimal resistance. Snagrod boasted that his next conquest would be Rynn's world, a peaceful agri-world in the chapter planet of the Crimson Fist Space Marines. The third company of the Crimson Fists, under Captain Ashor Draken, was sent to stall the war on the planet of Badlanding and gauge its strength. The size of Snagrod's forces had been significantly underestimated, and only a few of the Astartes sent there were able to return back. Cantor ordered the immediate recall of all the Crimson Fists and set about organizing the defenses of Rynn's world to meet the expected Greenskin assault. During the initial invasion of Rynn's world, a great tragedy befell the Crimson Fists. A missile launched by one of the planetary defense installations struck the Crimson Fists' own fortress monastery. The missile's potent warhead leveled the monastery, leaving just over a dozen survivors. Cantor was one among them. These survivors were ultimately able to travel overland through great peril and link up with a detachment of Crimson Fists, consisting of the elements of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd companies, assigned to defend Rynn's world's capital, New Rynn City. Taking command of the Imperial forces, Cantor was able to hold off the orcs through an 18-month-long siege until Imperial reinforcements could arrive just before the city fell to a horde of orc gargants. We have been sorely wounded, yet we still stand, with fire in our eyes and valor in our hearts. Let them think us beaten, we shall teach them otherwise. Pedro Cantor, following the invasion of Rynn's world. This incident on Rynn's world resulted in the near destruction of the Crimson Fist chapter, and as a result, Cantor's primary focus was currently on rebuilding the chapter. Due to their significant losses, the Crimson Fists can only be fielded as infiltration-sized squads of Astartes. Snagrod's war had induced a deep hatred of orcs within the chapter, and it is said that the Crimson Fist Astartes will go to any lengths to defeat any orc forces that they encounter. During this 18-month campaign, all of Rynn world's major cities were destroyed, with the exception of New Rynn City, the capital and seat of the world's government. Eventually, the planet was brought back under Imperial control years later, but millions of the Agri-World's people had been killed, most likely a majority of the population. It would take decades for the planet to recover its lost infrastructure and agricultural productivity. To this day, many of the worlds of the Loki sector that are captured by Wa Snagrods still remain lost to the Imperium. However, one tale of the reclamation of Rynn's world from the orcs of Wa Snagrod is not so widely told, and known only to the Crimson Fist chapter master Pedro Cantor and his closest battle brothers. This tale begins a half-year after the completion of the reclamation of Rynn's world. Although the planet was officially designated by the Imperium as secure, the orcs were always a difficult species to truly eradicate once they have made planetfall. Several green-skinned warbands were known to be lurking in the planet's Jaden Mountains, conducting raids of the surviving, weary and war-torn populace of Rynn's world. As the Crimson Fist's few surviving tech marines salvaged and repaired what they had survived during Wall's assault, the chapter master dedicated himself to cleansing the Jaden Mountains of the remaining orc threat. It was a difficult campaign, for the orcs defended every crag and cavern, but Cantor had neither the main nor equipment that he would have wished for such a task. Nonetheless, the Crimson Fist forged on, slaying greenskins wherever they could be found. Under such a threat, it was perhaps only a matter of time before the orcs of Jaden Mountains united. So it was that, when Cantor's force came under attack in Traitor's Gorge, they found themselves assailed by not only the warband that they had been hunting, but also every orc for leagues around in every direction. The Space Marines numbered only about 24 in number, but Cantor and his Crimson Fists fought as heroes of legend, taking a grievous toll on an orc horde that numbered in the hundreds. With Cantor at the forefront, the Space Marines battled their way clear out of the ravine's treacherous confines and sought for the high ground. There they planted their feet and fought shoulder to shoulder against the horde, but the orcs kept on coming. With all the Crimson Fist Thunderhawk gunships lost in battle or under heavy repair, Cantor knew that both evacuation and reinforcements were impossible, and the orcs also showed no sign of giving up the fight. 3 of Cantor's battle brothers had been slain in their escape from the ravine, and only the chapter master remained unwounded. In return, the Crimson Fists made Traitor's Gorge run red with the blood of slain greenskins, and they fought from behind barricades of the bulky, orcish dead. But Cantor knew that the odds were stacked against him and his men. Without warning, the greenskin tide began to slacken. Seeking the reason, Cantor's keen eye saw ghostly figures on Widow's Spire to the west and Dark Ridge to the east, high above and behind the encircling orcs. Graceful were these newcomers, darting from cover to cover, paying no heed to the treacherous footing as their long rifles brought precise death to the orcish horde. Who were these allies? Cantor could not immediately tell, for their forms shimmered as insubstantial as mist in the morning sunlight. But he did not care. All that mattered was that this intervention gave his battle brothers the chance that they needed to counterattack and to turn the tide of battle. With a mighty shout, the Crimson Fists charged over their rampart of dead greenskins and set upon the orcs with new vigor. Caught between the redoubled rage of the Crimson Fists and the fresh attackers on the slopes, the orcs were thrust back. The greenskins fled down Traitor's Gorge, leaving more than 10 dead and twice as many wounded behind them. As Cantor's men walked amongst the carnage, ending the lives of those orcs too foolhardily or injured to flee, a robed figure detached itself from the shadows and swiftly strode to Cantor's side. Coldly contemptuous of any threat posed by the watchful Space Marines, it cut through the chapter master's wary greeting. The figure spoke to Cantor. The surviving beasts cower in the shadows below, ensnared in a web of our devising. Pursue them into the darkness, and a great victory shall be yours. And if I choose not to do so? Cantor asked, for he could not bring himself to place his trust in this elaborately helmed alien, now revealed as a warrior of the Eldar race. Then they will escape and grow ever stronger in the darkness. In 50 years, a shadow of their making will arise to envelop this area, which unopposed shall be the doom of your people and mine. Will you aid us in this gorge as you did here, then? Cantor demanded, but the figure shook his head. Be not so swift to embrace us as allies. Auspicious fate dictated that we should fight side by side on this day, but fate is a fickle creature. At our next encounter, it will be my fists that bear the stain of your blood. And with that, the alien turned and was gone. The shadows that loomed on the crags above also left, and Cantor weighed the words and actions that he had borne witness to, and led his men into Traitor's Gorge. There in the darkness, a great victory was indeed his, forever ending the orc threat in the Jaden Mountains. Returning to the lowlands, Cantor continued the rebuilding of his chapter, and in time, he raised the Crimson Fists out of ruin to once more stand alongside the greatest of champions of mankind. But in all the years of triumph that followed, the robed figure's words would dwell heavily on Cantor, until at last they met again. Now that's all I've got for you on the lore of Pedro Cantor. But before I finish it, let me talk really quickly about his Wargear. So Cantor wields a red power fist. Now this power fist makes him a little bit slow in close combat, but it's all worth it because the power fist is a pretty devastating piece of Wargear. So to make up for that, he does don the Artificer armor, which grants him a very good save. On top of that, he also has the Iron Halo, which Pedro carries into combat, and it was very effective against the orcs during the Battle of Rynn's World. Now he does have a special storm bolter by the name of Dorn's Arrow, and he is known to carry this ancient and revealed relic into battle. It is attached to his gauntlet, so he can still, utilize another weapon in his hand, but for the most part, he just uses this to penetrate thick armor plating. Now I have finished with the lore on Cantor, for real this time. So let me know what you guys thought about this chapter master. I for one like him. He's pretty interesting. I've never actually used him on the actual game, but he seems pretty alright for the points. If you guys have used him before, let me know how he did. And what do you guys think about this? I for one like it since he was whooping some orc butt. Now I'm pretty sure Gersh 1 does not like him at all, since he is an orc player after all. But anyway, let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. Leave your suggestions so I can get to it. And don't forget to hit us up on our Facebook page. We can talk via messaging and whatnot. And we do have a Patreon page, so help support us there. And that's all I've got for you guys today. Stay tuned because we bring you videos each and every day. And with that, I am the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I am out of here.